Before we even get into the details, understand this. A DHS secretary just admitted she doesn't know where the Constitution places the power to suspend habeas corpus. She couldn't name the article, couldn't name the branch, and still suggested a president could do it. And that's after she tried to paint a lawful congressional oversight visit as some kind of violent mob. What Andy Kim does next? It exposes everything.
Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Secretary, a press release came out from the Department of Homeland Security a couple days ago. It said that members of Congress in New Jersey that went to the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility could, quote, could have just scheduled a tour. I guess I'd just like to hear from you if you can confirm that you understand that members of Congress by law are allowed to show up unannounced to conduct oversight visits of ICE detention facilities.
Yes, they can conduct oversight, but Senator, what I would ask is that they understand that that doesn't mean they could show up with a mob with the intention to break in and assault law enforcement officers. That's what happened at Delaney Hall last week.
You're familiar
is that those individuals and those members of Congress were surrounded by criminals, creating criminal and perpetuating criminal acts.
You understand that
but when
they were
you show up
already
and ask for a tour, we
facility.
facilitated every single tour that every member of Congress has wanted. We've always done that, and we have to, when we have a tour, also make sure that we've addressed security concerns and have enough staff and all of that, and we were accommodating that when those individuals showed up and they decided instead to break in.
You know that they were already on the ICE premise, already facilitating into having the tour when there was the arrest of the mayor. They were not breaking into
They had broken through the outer fence, and they were interior on federal property when the crimes occurred.
They were invited in by ICE as the ICE was preparing to give them a tour.
That doesn't give them an excuse to start punching law enforcement officers.
But you understand that they were not storming the fence.
Well, I don't understand. Are you making excuses for their behavior that day?
I'm just trying to clarify what exactly
Oversight is an important part of what Congress does and what you provide to our department, and we welcome it. We give tours when members of Congress ask for it. We just ask that they not be politicized, that they actually are there to provide the oversight that is needed to ensure that we're doing due diligence in our job.
And if I were to show up at ICE detention facility unannounced, I would be let in.
Yes, I would ask that you would be allowing us to secure the officers that we need to give you an appropriate tour, that we'd be able to cover the other bases and posts that they would have to leave to come and facilitate that. We may have to call other people in to help cover some of that because of the extra responsibilities, but we can do that.
I've done this before. I just wanted to make sure I heard that from you. I wanted to just go back to something that was raised earlier about habeas corpus. Can you confirm to us that you understand that any suspension of habeas corpus requires an act of Congress?
President Lincoln executed habeas corpus in the past with retroactive action by Congress. I believe that any president that was able to do that in the past, it should be afforded to our current day president. This president has never said he's going to do this. He's never communicated to me or his administration that they're going to consider suspending habeas corpus, but I do think the Constitution allows them the right to consider it.
When we saw what happened with, how many times has habeas corpus been suspended in our country?
Once that I know of.
4 times.
For certain. I'm not certain if those were...
The instance that you were referring to was one where the courts subsequently showed that Congress is the one that has the ability. Do you know what section of the Constitution the suspension clause of habeas corpus is in?
I do not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, it is in Article 1. Do you know which branch of government Article 1 outlines the tasks and the responsibilities for?
Yes.
Which one?
Congress.
Yes. Stephen Miller has said that he is actively considering, that there is active consideration of habeas corpus. Have you had a conversation with Stephen Miller about suspending habeas corpus?
I have not.
When it comes to FEMA, this is something I'm concerned about. Being from New Jersey, we've had challenges with Superstorm Sandy and others in the past. I was alarmed when I saw some reports that the acting head, Richardson, said last Thursday that he's about 80 to 85% done with the hurricane season plan, given that we are just days away from hurricane season beginning. I just wanted to ask you, is he done with his hurricane preparedness plan?
He is working diligently with the employees at FEMA and are prepared for hurricane season. What you
Have
referenced...
you seen this plan? Have you seen this plan? Is he
Yes, I've been
presented it to you?
actively engaged in hurricane response and preparation.
seen
We're
the plan?
pre-staging people, pre-staging equipment.
Is that
We're
plan
making sure that
something-
we have tabletop exercise we're running through with all of our regions on what their response will be. It's been very extensive how we've laid out this plan.
And will you be able to share that plan with this committee?
I will check and make sure
Yeah,
that
if
I
you can
can,
check
but
on
I would think that we would be able to do
Okay.
that. I can't
Just
see any
one-
reason that
Just one last thing. A couple weeks ago, you said that you were considering restarting in-person training at the National Fire Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to ask if you're prepared to tell this committee that that you are moving forward with restarting in-person trainings.
Yes, the plan is to do that again. So
That has been approved
yeah.
to restart?
Yes, it has been.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I yield back.
Senator Scott.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman.
What you just witnessed was one of the most quietly devastating takedowns of Kristi Noem's leadership and her understanding of the law that we've seen in these DHS hearings. Andy Kim didn't come to grandstand. He came to expose something deeper. A DHS secretary who can't answer basic constitutional questions, who misrepresents congressional oversight, and who keeps trying to rewrite reality in real time. Noem starts by framing a routine oversight visit, one that federal law explicitly allows to be unannounced, as some kind of violent mob attack. But Andy Kim immediately forces her back into the truth. Members of Congress were already on federal property, invited inside for a tour when an arrest escalated tensions. The idea that they broke in collapses under even the most basic scrutiny. And that's the larger pattern here. Noem keeps falling back on emotion, narrative, and political spin, while Kim keeps hammering her with facts. Then we get to the part that truly exposes the depth of the problem: habeas corpus. This isn't some obscure policy detail. This is one of the core protections in the U.S. Constitution, your right not to be unlawfully detained. And Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, cannot say which article of the Constitution the suspension clause is in. She cannot cite the branch of government responsible until Kim basically forces her to guess. She cannot articulate historical precedent. And yet she's out here saying a president could potentially suspend habeas corpus? That is not a small mistake. That is not a slip-up. That is the kind of answer that should alarm every single person who cares about civil liberties, regardless of ideology. And Andy Kim wasn't done. He moved on to FEMA preparedness, hurricane planning, in-person fire training, real governance issues that actually affect people's lives. And again, Noem offers vague assurances instead of specifics. Kim is simply trying to figure out whether FEMA has its hurricane plan finalized days before hurricane season begins. Noem gives broad answers that sound rehearsed, not concrete. It's the same deflection pattern, just dressed up differently. What ties this entire exchange together is something deeper than a single policy disagreement. It's the contrast between someone who understands the role of congressional oversight and someone who behaves like oversight is an inconvenience. Someone who knows the Constitution and someone who treats constitutional protections like optional suggestions. Someone focused on governance and someone focused on political narrative. And that's why exchanges like this matter. Because if DHS leadership doesn't understand the constitutional limits of their power, doesn't respect the legal oversight authority Congress is granted, and can't answer basic questions about liberty, law, and emergency preparedness, then we have a serious problem. If you value government accountability, constitutional protections, and transparency, you cannot tune out moments like this. This is exactly why Left Lens exists, to break down these hearings, expose what's actually being said, and show how it affects real people. Stay informed, stay curious, and if you want more breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and help us keep these conversations alive. This is Left Lens, where clarity cuts through the noise.